It's time for the first harvest out of the garden for 2018. Hey everybody, welcome back to Living Traditions Homestead. This is Kevin and Sarah. Well, today is an exciting day. We've picked a few small things out of the garden over the past week or so. A couple little cucumbers, a couple cherry tomatoes.
A couple zucchinis.
Right, but today is the first day that we actually have a pretty substantial harvest to pick. Not a huge harvest, but we have all of our onions to pull up.
Right. We also have, we've been kind of looking at the green beans, and I think we need to pick green beans today. Whether or not that's just going to be enough for our dinner tonight, or whether it's going to be enough for me to can, I'm not really sure. We're going to take you around to some of the other areas of the garden where we might be able to do some harvesting as well. You know, we're hoping it's more than just a few things here and there, but let's see what we can get. We're expecting rain today, so we want to get some of these things out while the plants are still dry.
So we're going to start with our onions, which are right behind us. We planted those in a raised bed this year. At first we didn't think they were doing very well. They seemed to take a long time to start to form a bulb, but they've ended up doing really well. You can see we also have a nice garden of weeds along with the onions that just kind of got away from us. But hey,
oh, well.
It's a living ground cover.
Right.
So once we get the weeds out, then we'll be able to do something, or once we get the onions out, we'll be able to do something about the weeds. But we're just excited to have all of these onions for our family.
Right. Now last year we planted onions in the big garden, and you know, it was our first year really planting onions. We thought that, hey, those are going to be a fall harvest, right? Well, we found out kind of on the late side that we should have pulled them maybe even a couple weeks earlier than we did, and so a lot of them were kind of on the rotten side. So this year we're trying to prevent that from happening. These onions aren't very big, and honestly we don't really care. We're going to tell you a little bit later how we're going to preserve these, but we just need to get going. The sun is out, which is great, but it's also hot, so let's get picking. So the main way for you to know when your onions are ready to harvest is that some of them, if not all of them, the tops, the green tops, will flop over kind of right above the bulb. Now in our case, because it's warm and humid here, once we have started seeing a couple of those, we know that it's time for us to harvest. Maybe in a cooler location you could wait until more of them are toppled over, but we're not going to take any chances today. We're just going to harvest them all.
There we go, 2 bushel baskets and a cardboard box full of onions. Not bad for really very little effort with onions. I mean, they're an easy thing to plant. You just put them in the ground early spring and wait a few months and here you go, you got onions. Now with these, we're actually going to take these in the house and we're going to chop them and freeze them.
Right. Here in Missouri, it just stays too hot and too humid for us to dry these properly and cure them in order to, you know, save them in the root cellar or something like that. It's just one of the downsides of living in a warmer, humid climate. So these guys will go in the freezer. Now the green tops, the center of them, you know, that are like the most recent green tops, we're going to take those and we're going to chop them and dehydrate them so that I can use them throughout the winter when I'm making soups and those kinds of things. So we'll get some use out of those as well.
We're very excited. This is going to be a nice, harvest that we can have in the freezer And honestly, they're kind of nice to have that way. That way when you need something in a recipe, you just, go grab what you need out of the freezer and you're all set. So we're excited. Now we're going to move on to the rest of the garden.
Well, here is our wonderful row of green beans. They're bush beans. I think they're Provider this year. Anyway, so we're going to get going on these. Green beans are one of those things that just tear my arms and my hands up, so I need to wear long sleeves and gloves. But here's hoping for enough to can, although we'll be happy just with enough for dinner.
All right, so here's what we ended up with. Do you think this is enough to can?
No.
No? Okay, good.
But it will be a nice couple meals worth for us. We know there's a lot more to come, but it was nice to get out here and see what the first harvest was. There are a lot of small green beans out there, so in not very much time, we're gonna have a lot of green beans, which is fantastic. They're one of our family's favorite for me to can and to have all winter long.
Right.
So let's go see what's next.
All right, so now we're over in one of our raised beds where we have our turnips. And I think these turnips are pretty much all ready to go. You can see they're starting to turn brown on top, which means they're kind of at the end of their life cycle. I don't think they're gonna get any bigger. From here on out, they'll probably just kind of get woody. So we're just gonna pick all of the turnips today. And then I think over here there might be a couple other things that are ready to pick as well.
Really nice ones here. So we ended up with two nice sized baskets of turnips, some really nice ones. We ended up planting these a little on the late side, so there are a fair amount of them that are small, but we'll eat them anyway. Next up is right next door to us here. It's kind of the end of our beet season. We also got those in late, so we'll see what we can get, but it looks like there are some good sized beets. So we're just gonna move on right next door and see what kind of beet harvest we can have.
We ended up with a nice, decent amount of beets. We'll take these inside and we'll cut the tops off. The nice thing is now that we have the pigs, the tops from all of these veggies that aren't edible anymore can go to the pigs. So they love it. I've been taking things out to them every night from the garden and they're in love with it. So we're gonna see, I think we're gonna check on the carrots now and see if there's any carrots ready to harvest.
Well, we took a closer look at the carrots and they're just not ready. So we're gonna move on to the radishes. There are a bunch of radishes that just need to come out. There are some little ones that we'll leave, but we're just gonna harvest all the big radishes right away. We're gonna save the tops for the pigs. We've tried to eat radish greens in the past and they just really aren't our favorite. So we're just gonna give them to the pigs. So let's see what we can get.
All right, well, not real great on the radishes, but we got two little baskets full, and then we got some that were, they were in the ground too long and they split open. And we took the tops off. So 2 baskets is enough if we mix them with some turnips that we can have a meal of roasted turnips and radishes, which if you didn't see the video that we did on that last week, I'll go ahead and leave a link to that up here. Or maybe Sarah can even do some more fermented radishes. If you haven't seen that video, I'll leave a link up here as well. But the rest of these, they'll become pig food. We're gonna take these down to the pigs and see if they like radishes. Here, pigs! Come on, pigs! Come here, pigs! Look. Come here, pigs! You guys like radishes? As you can see, they're starting to get more friendly. They're happy. they're growing, but you can tell they've been rolling around in the mud trying to cool off in their wallow too, so. It seems like they like radishes though. All right, let's head back to the garden and finish picking. Well, we saved the best for last. We're starting to get some ripe tomatoes. Only a few. I mean, we have hundreds of tomatoes on, but only a few that are starting to ripen. But I'll tell you what, I'm like in Disneyland right now. Fresh tomatoes from the garden. That's like the epitome of how good life gets right there. That's just so awesome. So I'm going to show you a couple varieties that are coming coming ripe. First one is one that we just discovered last year, which has really become one of our favorite kind of cherry tomatoes, and this is called the Black Vernissage. We got these from Baker Creek. Actually, last year Baker Creek was giving away these seeds for free, so we got a free packet and tried them and absolutely loved them. So this year we planted them on purpose. The other cherry tomato that's starting to ripen over here, these are called chocolate cherries, and they are a super sweet cherry tomato. So we've got just a few of those. Looks like there's going to be more in the next few days, but a couple of those. And then the one that was last year, our very best producer on the homestead, Jet Stars. Last year was the first year that we grew these. They never really had them when we lived in Arizona. But I since found out that this is actually the variety that my mom used to plant in Wisconsin. So we've got a couple that are starting to ripen as well. Now, personally, I like tomatoes when they're still a little bit orange. I don't like them when they get really, really ripe. But that's personal preference. So this is perfect for me. And I think there's one or two more down here. Like here's one, but that one's not quite ready. Let's look at these. I think that one's about perfect as well. That one's going to need another day or so. Another nice one. And look at that beaut. If you can eat a homegrown tomato and not believe that there's a God who loves us, I don't know. This is proof right here. This is my favorite thing of the entire summer, is eating homegrown tomatoes. I'm going to take these in the house, and I'm probably going to eat all of these tonight. Let's go put everything together and see how our harvest did.
Well, this is something to be proud of. I can't believe everything that we got out of the garden today. I'm super excited to get all this into the house and start putting it away.
Being out in the garden and picking everything is just the start of the process. We've got a full night ahead of us now of, cutting things up and getting them ready so that all of this doesn't go to waste. And sometimes that's the hardest part is, prioritizing life so that as you get things, you can do something with them right away.
Well, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed watching us complete our first harvest, big harvest of the season. We're so glad that you joined us. Hey, don't forget that we put out videos 5 days a week, so come back every day. And by the way, if you're not a subscriber yet, right now is the perfect time for you to hit the subscribe button below.
If you're one of our traditionalists who comes back every day, we sure do appreciate you guys. And until next time, thanks for stopping by the homestead. Take care, and God bless.
God bless.